You've probably heard this a million times. Renting is throwing money away. Buying builds equity. But what if I told you that depending on where you live and what you do with the difference in cost, renting and investing the savings could actually make you richer than buying? This isn't about one being always better. It's about understanding the real math, including the hidden costs of homeownership that nobody puts on the Instagram infographic. In this video, we're running the actual numbers on renting versus buying, the costs nobody talks about, the scenarios where each one wins, and how to make the right choice for your situation. Let's go. Welcome to Faceless Millionaire. If you want real math on big financial decisions, not oversimplified advice, subscribe right now. Here's the truth. The rent versus buy debate isn't black and white. It depends on where you live, how long you're staying, and what you do with your money. Let's break it down. Let's start with what most people get wrong about buying. They only think about the mortgage payment. That's a huge mistake. When you own a home, your monthly mortgage is just the beginning. There are massive costs that people forget to factor in. Hidden cost 1, property tax. Most states charge 1 to 2% of your home's value every single year, forever, as long as you own the house. $400,000 house, 1.5% property tax. That's $6,000 per year, $500 per month. And here's the kicker. Property taxes usually go up over time. As your home value increases, your tax bill increases. Over 30 years, you could pay $150,000 to $200,000 in property taxes alone. That's a whole second house in some markets. Hidden cost 2, maintenance and repairs. The rule of thumb is 1 to 2% of your home value per year. On a $400,000 house, that's $4,000 to $8,000 per year. Roof replacement, $15,000. HVAC system dies, $10,000. Water heater, $2,000. Plumbing issues, $3,000. Foundation cracks, $20,000. These aren't optional. They're inevitable. Stuff breaks. You have to fix it. When you rent, the landlord pays for all of this. Toilet breaks? Call the landlord. Roof leaks? Their problem. You pay zero. When you own, every single repair comes out of your pocket. Over 30 years, you're easily spending $150,000 to $200,000 on maintenance. And that's if nothing major goes wrong. Hidden cost 3, homeowners insurance, usually $1,000 to $3,000 per year depending on location and home value. Hurricane zones and wildfire areas? Way higher. Over 30 years, that's another $30,000 to $90,000. Hidden cost 4, closing costs. When you buy, you pay 2 to 5% of the purchase price in fees. Appraisal, inspection, loan origination, title insurance, escrow, attorney fees. $400,000 house. 2 to 5% is $8,000 to $20,000 just to complete the purchase. And when you sell, another 5 to 6% goes to real estate agent commissions. On a $400,000 house, that's $20,000 to $24,000. Buy and sell once, you just lost $30,000 to $40,000 in transaction costs alone. Hidden cost 5, HOA fees. If your home is in a community with a homeowners association, common range is $200 to $500 per month, sometimes more for luxury communities. That's $2,400 to $6,000 per year. Over 30 years, that's $70,000 to $180,000. Hidden cost 6, the big one nobody talks about. Opportunity cost of your down payment. You put $80,000 down on a $400,000 house. That's $80,000 you can't invest in the stock market. $80,000 invested in an S&P 500 index fund at 8% average returns. Over 20 years, that becomes roughly $370,000. That's the opportunity cost. What you gave up by putting money into a house instead of investments. Let's run a full example. $400,000 house, 20% down, $80,000. 30-year mortgage at 7%. Your monthly mortgage payment, principal and interest, about $2,130. But that's not your total housing cost. Add property tax, $500 per month. Add insurance, $200 per month. Add maintenance budget, $400 per month. Add HOA, if applicable, $300 per month. Total monthly housing cost, $3,530. Your mortgage payment is only 60% of your actual cost of ownership. Over 30 years, here's what you actually pay. Mortgage interest, about $350,000. Property taxes, $180,000. Insurance, $70,000. Maintenance, $150,000. HOA fees, $108,000. Total, $858,000 in costs to own a $400,000 house. Now let's say the house appreciates 3% per year, standard long-term average. After 30 years, it's worth about $970,000. You bought for $400,000, it's now worth $970,000. You made $570,000 in appreciation, but you paid $858,000 in costs over those 30 years. Net position, you lost about $288,000. Even with appreciation. Wait, how is that possible? Because most of those costs are unrecoverable. Property tax doesn't build equity. Insurance doesn't build equity. Maintenance doesn't build equity. Interest doesn't build equity. Only your principal payments build equity. And those are a small portion of your total housing cost for the first 15 years. Meanwhile, that $80,000 down payment, if you'd invested it instead at 8%, it would be worth $370,000 after 20 years. This is the math nobody shows you. Now let's look at the alternative, the rent and invest strategy. In our example, owning costs $3,530 per month all in. Let's say you can rent a similar place for $2,500 per month. That's $1,030 less per month. What if you invested that $1,030 difference every month? Over 20 years at 8% returns, you'd have about $600,000 in investments. You also save the $80,000 down payment. Invested at 8% for 20 years, that's $370,000. Total invested wealth, about $970,000. Meanwhile, the homeowner has a house worth $970,000, but they paid $858,000 to get there, and they can't access the equity without selling or taking a loan. The renter has $970,000 in liquid, investable assets, accessible anytime, no selling required. Now this assumes three things. 1. Rent stays relatively flat or increases slowly. If rent skyrockets, this math changes. 2. You actually invest the difference. If you spend it instead, you get nothing. 3. Stock market returns 8% long-term. Historical average, but not guaranteed. This strategy works best in high-cost cities where buying costs way more than renting. San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, Seattle. In these markets, the gap between renting and owning is huge. $1,500 to $3,000 per month difference. That's a lot to invest. Okay, so when does buying actually make sense? Because it definitely does in many situations. Reason 1, you're staying 7+ years. Buying only makes sense if you stay long enough to recoup closing costs and build meaningful equity. First few years of a mortgage, almost everything goes to interest. You're barely building equity. If you sell after 3 years, closing costs eat all your gains. But after 7 to 10 years, you've paid down significant principal. Appreciation has compounded. Transaction costs matter less. Now buying can win. Reason 2, you live in a low-cost housing market. In the Midwest, South, and many smaller cities, houses are cheap. 3% down on a $200,000 house is $6,000. Mortgage might be $1,000 per month. If rent for a similar place is $900, the gap is tiny. Buying makes way more sense because you're locking in a fixed payment that builds equity. Reason 3, you need forced savings discipline. Some people will never invest. They'll spend every extra dollar. For them, a mortgage is forced savings. You have to make the payment. Equity builds automatically. If you lack investing discipline, buying might be the only way you build wealth. Reason 4, leverage and appreciation. You put 20% down, $80,000. You control a $400,000 asset. If the house appreciates 5% in 1 year, that's $20,000 in gains. On your $80,000 down payment, that's a 25% return. You're using the bank's money to amplify gains. That's powerful if appreciation is strong. Reason 5, fixed mortgage payment while rent rises. Your mortgage payment stays the same for 30 years. $2,000 month 1, $2,000 month 360. Rent goes up every year. 2%, 3%, 5%. After 15 years, rent could be double. Buying locks in your housing cost. That's valuable inflation protection. Reason 6, stability and roots. You can't be evicted. You can renovate however you want. You're putting down roots in a community. Your kids stay in the same school district. Some people value this more than financial optimization. That's totally valid. Now let's look at when renting wins. Reason 1, high-cost cities where buying costs 2 to 3 times renting. San Francisco, Manhattan. You can rent a 2-bedroom for $4,000. Buying equivalent costs $10,000 per month all in. That $6,000 difference invested for 10 years at 8% is over $1 million. In these markets, renting and investing destroys buying financially. Reason 2, short time horizon. Moving in under 7 years. Closing costs kill you. You'll barely build equity. You might even lose money if the market dips. Renting gives you total flexibility. No transaction costs when you move. Reason 3, career flexibility. Job offer in another city? Just move. Break your lease or finish it out. No house to sell. No waiting months for buyers. No real estate commissions. Young professionals climbing the career ladder often move every 2 to 5 years. Buying makes no sense. Reason 4, strong investing discipline. If you will actually invest the difference between rent and ownership, you can build more wealth renting. The key word is actually, most people won't. They'll spend it. If you're in the minority who invest consistently, renting can win big. Reason 5, avoiding maintenance, taxes, and headaches. Some people don't want to deal with broken AC units, property tax bills, roof leaks, and HOA drama. Renting is simple. Pay one bill. Everything else is the landlord's problem. Some people value that simplicity. Reason 6, better use of capital. That $80,000 down payment. What if you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, an investor? $80,000 invested in your business might generate 20 to 30% returns, way better than real estate. Or invested in index funds with no illiquidity. You can access it anytime. Some people prioritize investment flexibility over home ownership. There's a famous framework called the 5% rule, created by financial analyst Ben Felix. The idea is simple. The annual unrecoverable costs of owning a home equal about 5% of the home's value. Unrecoverable costs, money that doesn't build equity, property tax, maintenance, insurance, mortgage interest. $400,000 house, 5% is $20,000 per year. That's $1,667 per month. If you can rent for less than $1,667, renting is financially better. Where does 5% come from? Property tax, 1 to 1.5%. Maintenance, 1%. Insurance, 0.25%. Mortgage interest, roughly 1.5 to 2%. Opportunity cost of equity, about 1%. Added up, about 5% of home value per year goes to unrecoverable costs. How to use this? Take your home value, multiply by 0.05, divide by 12. That's your break-even monthly rent. If actual rent is lower, renting wins financially. If higher, buying wins. Visual, examples in different markets. Example 1, 400,000 house in Austin. 5% rule says 1,667 break-even. Rent is 1,800. Buying might win. Example 2, 800,000 house in San Francisco. 5% rule says 3,333 break-even. Rent is 4,500. Renting wins. This isn't perfect, but it's a quick way to ballpark the financial decision. So how do you actually decide? Here's the framework. Question 1, how long am I staying? Under 7 years? Lean toward renting. 7+ years? Buying becomes viable. Question 2, what's the rent versus own cost difference in my city? Run the 5% rule. If rent is way cheaper than 5% of home value, renting wins financially. If owning is close to renting cost, buying can win for non-financial reasons. Question 3, am I disciplined enough to invest the difference? Be honest. Will you actually invest that extra $1,000 per month if you rent cheaper? Or will you spend it? If you won't invest it, buying forces you to build wealth. If you will invest it, renting might build more wealth. Question 4, Do I value flexibility or stability more? Flexibility. Rent. Move easily. No anchors. Stability. Buy. Put down roots. Control your space. Neither is wrong. It's about your life stage and priorities. Question 5. What's my down payment earning potential if invested? If you're an entrepreneur or active investor who can beat 8% returns, keep your capital liquid. If you're a passive investor who just do index funds anyway, real estate leverage might beat stocks. Most important, run your actual numbers, your city, your rent, your potential purchase price, your down payment, your opportunity cost. This isn't about generic advice, it's about your specific situation. Here's the truth. Both renting and buying can be great decisions. Both can be terrible decisions. It's not about one being universally better. It's about understanding the real math, the hidden costs, the opportunity costs, and making the choice that fits your life. Buying works when you're staying long-term, you're in a reasonable cost market, and you value stability. Renting works when you're mobile, you're in an expensive city, and you invest the difference. The worst decision is buying just because society says you should, or renting forever without investing because you don't understand the opportunity. If this breakdown helped you think differently about rent versus buy, hit that like button. If you want more real math on big financial decisions, subscribe to Faceless Millionaire. Now tell me, do you rent or own, and are you happy with that decision? Drop it in the comments. I'll reply with thoughts on your situation. Run your numbers. Make your choice. Either path can build wealth if you do it right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.